Hello everyone. Today I'm at Mere Knolls Cemetery, which is in Seaburn in Sunderland. Not far from the seafront, just in the distance, a few hundred metres. I've come today to have a look at a couple of graves from 1883, June 1883. And these were victims of the Victoria Hall disaster. I don't need to go much into that because, as I said, it's all over the internet. But 182 children in Sunderland were crushed to death one Saturday afternoon at a show for children. We're actually quite close to the main path into Mere Knolls Cemetery, and it's these two particular headstones that I've come to have a look at. Well, one in particular, it's this one and this one. Often in the summer they get covered over with leaves and stuff. Just look at, sadly, actually looks like it's got a crack in it, that one as well. What's that? I think that one is Damson. I've done a story on these two headstones on Facebook. It's called The Day After. Normally it's a lot clearer than this, but as you can see, there's lots of moss has grown into the lettering now, which is a shame. It's quite mild, quiet day today. But that wasn't the headstone I was going to do this particular video on. Again, this one, it's gradually getting filled in with moss. So it's hard to read, but this one is in loving memory of John George Thomas, the beloved son of John and Mary Venus, who met his death in the sad accident at the Victoria Hall disaster. It just says Victoria Hall, June the 16th, 1883, aged 7 years and 4 months. Also, Charles Reginald Venus, who died June the 17th, 1883, aged 1 year and 7 months. And the epitaph is other little children. Just as I said that.
Do that. Look at some of them that have just been forgotten.
Yeah, it's these two. I'm just doing a little video on these two ones. The sun's just come out, hasn't it?
And William Armstrong's one of the...
There's a few.
There was stand-up ones there. Worth it.
There's a few, I've noticed a few. There's a few up that other little side there. I'm just doing a little video on this one for be on YouTube tonight. Your voice will be on as well, because I haven't got the editing software at the moment.
Excellent.
So, anyway, have a nice day. Yeah, so it's not just me who's interested in the old headstones there. So Charles Reginald Venus, he didn't die at the Victoria Hall. In a sad coincidence, he died the day after. So his poor parents lost John George Thomas at the disaster, but then the day after, young Charles Reginald Venus, he sadly passed away. And his cause of death, because it was in the paper, was consumption, or otherwise known as TB, or phthisis, for that one. So the poor parents lost 2 children in 2 days. Now, the funerals were on June the 19th for a lot of the victims of this disaster. Now, unlike today, I'm going to read you something out. Well, this is just off my story. The weather matched the mournful proceedings with blackened clouds and rain. The processions to the various newly dug children's graves were like trains of grief. Now, if somebody gave this quote, it was touching yet gratifying to see that every little coffin was covered with mementos of friendship, signalised by wreaths of beautiful evergreens and immortelles. When lowered into the graves, the flowers were removed, and on the soil being filled in, the sad mementos of the departed were placed over the grave. That was June the 19th, 1863. John and Charles were buried side by side at this particular spot. As I said, just as I started doing this, the sun has come out, a bit of light. Now the parents of these two young boys, John was from Norton near Stockton-on-Tees, and the wife was called Mary Clark. She was from Leeming, just down North Yorkshire, and the two of them got married at Leyburn. Now what happened in 1887, they had another child, and they gave him the name John George Thomas Venus. Now he had a much longer life. He died in 1972. Now the parents, they lived until 1919 and 1921, and they died at 5 Lime Street over in Millfield. I think it's such a shame that these two little headstones are sort of disappearing into the earth, because every year, as you can see, the actual soil gets further and further onto them. One day they'll be gone, or just completely buried. Not every parent could afford to put a headstone up. There's lots of information in a Facebook group called Victoria Hall Disaster Group, and that goes into details about the disaster fund, which was another story. A lot of the money wasn't spent on the families. Just so if you ever walk past, just so you know where they are. Looking over there is towards Cutthroat Dean, and there's the 2 cemetery chapels up the top. Literally, you can see these are the first 2 headstones you will actually come across when you come into the cemetery. Oh, I forgot to mention there, the Venus family lived at Eglinton Street over Monkwearmouth. Just there. Lots of history. Sad story. There's another one buried. Well, not buried. Don't think that one's a Victoria. Yeah, we're talking here. Who died July the 12th, 1883. So this not long after William Armstrong. Don't think he's a Victoria. No, my disaster one. But if you notice, this section of the cemetery doesn't have many headstones. I think this was the area where you basically paid to purchase, well, not to purchase, but to pay for a burial. If you wanted to buy put headstones up, you had to buy a grave and then pay for a right, and not everybody could afford one. And if you had lots of children, you're probably going to have lots of infants who were killed, so you wouldn't want to keep buying a grave and then in a couple of years buy another one. So generally, a lot of the time, infants and some family members would be buried in places like this, and then in years later, when the parents died, they would simply add the names on to a headstone somewhere else, in their own headstone in the cemetery. So if you ever see a headstone, unless it says "Here lieth here" or "This is the grave of," and so on, never take it for granted that all of those particular people are actually buried at that spot. Even in these municipal cemeteries like Bishop Wearmouth, the Mere Knolls, and also Sunderland Cemetery, I think the most I've found is like 3 people buried in a grave. I'll just double check, because I can't remember if this is a Victoria Hall one as well. That's the problem when headstones go flat. They collect water, get damp, moss grows on them, and lots of the information is lost. So I'll leave you with that, and thank you very much for watching. If you do get the chance, please give the video a like if you want to, and also click on the subscribe. I'm just off to might do another video somewhere else in the cemetery. So thank you very much. See you next time.